right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Alex, for hosting this great event. Thank you, Vermilion. It was a year ago today. I came here for the first time, and it's only taken a year to get up here, so hey. Okay, good. This first one is kind of an old-fashioned rant, as it were. I got to be in a certain mood to do this one. I think I'm in that mood. This is called Blame, a partial list. First, I blame this awkward opening for which I only have myself to blame. I blame protocol, which says everything must have a beginning. I blame you for just sitting there and beat my chest because it is the only acceptable portion of my body I can beat in public, but it's early. Ask not for whom the blame tolls, all will unfold. Blame isms in Greek, Sisyphus and Rock, Aristotle and his poetics, Rabelais' rants, Cervantes, Shakespeare, and everything anyone has ever written. Blame Gutenberg, Simon & Schuster, Grove Press, those who don't read, and those who read too much into everything. Blame beings, magical, gaseous, and metaphorical, those who crunch fantastically false. Blame nations and Haitians, Cortez, Columbus, and Custer. Blame the French, Dutch, British. Blame the president, who carries the same blame as stained the one before. Blame power and power outages. Blame hip-hop, rap, soul, country. Blame the FCC and long-playing LPs. Blame TV. Blame YouTube and fast food. Blame the waitress. Blame that thing she forgot that took too long. Blame traffic and weather, whether or not it be fair. Blame God. Blame that which cannot blame back. Blame mom. Blame dad. Blame their divorce. Blame them just 'cause. Blame their youth, their era. Blame society and the society it keeps. Write a poem, blame that. Blame your writing teacher. Blame everyone who failed to stop you. Blame boredom and whoredom and substandard of living standardly. Blame the church. Blame Catholics, Jews, Christians, Mormons, Muslims, Hindus, Zoroastrians, Confucians, and your little Buddha too. Blame continental drift, whoever was at fault. Those continents should pay more attention. Blame cell phones and texting. Blame teenagers. Blame technology. Blame city council, city management, underground overcosts. Blame the bridge for being up and that boat that sailed below too slowly. Blame the homeless. Blame and kick everything, especially those without legs. Blame Congress and cronies, back scratchers, palm greasers, midnight wheeler dealers, ankle grabbers, procrastinators, eager fellatiators, legislators, vloggers and bloggers, self-starters, latecomers, and those who show up on time with their own excuses. Blame emotions, hormones, high fructose corn syrup. Blame men and women and trannies in transition. Blame lubricants, flies and ointment, bees and bonnets, embedded saddle burrs, open-toed sandals, engine grit, wayward pebbles, blisters, splinters, static cling, errant ball bearings, lost marbles, waxy buildup, ripped nails, dull razors, cold sores, artificial artifacts, esoteric heirlooms, frisky fornicators, hyperactivity, and ghosts in the machine. Blame that smug mechanic at Jiffy Lube who said everything looked okay. Blame liberals and all windbag demigods, radio ranters, easy listening listeners, Muzak, NPR pledge drives, and supporting members like you and me. I blame the first joint I ever smoked and that final drink I had night before last. I blame Alan Smoot, who lived across the street and who I used to fight every Saturday afternoon because there was nothing else to do. There's lots of blame to go around. I'd like to blame everything I have so far failed to blame because blame seemed too easy and obvious, a cop-out, too damn blameworthy, like lawyers, for instance, or the 2010 Mariners, or the poems of John Donne. People who wear thick coats on hot days without sweating, vegetarians, Bulgarians, tobacco chewers, fishing lures. Special shout-out blame to the sun, moon, stars, and whomever said Pluto could no longer be a planet. I blame spirituality, central heating, indoor plumbing, penicillin, badly drawn cartoons, Republicans, and Ralph Nader. I blame every film ever made by John Wayne and John Ford, and those they made together I blame doubly. I blame Hope and Crosby, Clinton's second term, rising oil prices, and falling standardized test scores. I blame fluoride, lead in the pipes, in the paint, lead in the goalie's ass, which led to another tie, with 4-star blame to the academy for which it stands, scapegoats in the rough, genetics in general, fireworks in the tall dry grass, hot pants, fishnets, dominatrixes, and a general disregard for the importance of coasters in our society. I blame popsicles, pesticide, regicide, petricide, genocide on freons, therons, and pheromones, and a lack of leadership among our stolen elected officials, as well as the lyrics of Johnny Mercer and all music featuring the accordion or bagpipes. Most of all, I blame the system for which it stands. Especially the Masons and other not-so-secret societies whose names escape me, who knew or should have known, and should accept the lion's share of blame, with lone exception to the prideless lion himself, hunted and harried, looking up from an eviscerated lamb, with blood on his mane, his face and paws, corralled by corporate wolves, while introducing yet another lame-ass movie we've already seen, roaring twice, and pleading forgiveness for having been born a beast. This poem, I read this at a open mic with my daughter in attendance. My daughter is a Christian from Colorado, and she brought my 3 grandchildren up to visit, and that was all very nice for Christmas. But she was here for a whole week, and I wanted to go to an open mic, and I dragged her along. And so I read this poem, and she probably thought it was just to embarrass her, but it wasn't. In any case, this is about meeting her mother, and this is called The Nascent Stages. You would never have come into being were it not for your mother's ass. It spoke to me in language I was fluent in. She wore a tight brown dress. We stood by a keg. I filled her cup. I was 18, she 17. I was less enthralled once our mouths joined in the conversation. We didn't make it that night, but maybe the next. We never dated. I thought she was an idiot, but I wasn't chasing intellectual stimulation. During our brief affair, we made it on a friend's floor, a slight deviation from the usual, pressed inside the front seat of my Ford. Old Town Eureka in a building no longer there. I climaxed just as I heard a train whistle, a huge blast. Dust bunnies were dancing beneath the bed we for some reason were not on. It was a long whistle. Maybe something was on the tracks. But whatever was going on out there, I'm certain this was the moment. You were on your way, and that train wasn't going to stop for anything. Thank you. I don't have many love poems, but this one goes out to my wife, who has seen way too many readings for a person who doesn't really like poetry all that much. This is called While You Were Gone. While you were gone, I slept on your side of the bed. I climbed the stairs backward. I stood on the porch and howled at an absent moon with your panties on. The red ones, which I then put neatly away. Bottles clustered like bowling pins. Dishes piled like buildings. I took them down with terrorist finesse, a perfect strike. I kept the ball-peen hammer in the freezer. I chased squirrels from the yard. I consulted runes and rued the result. I scared ghosts from our pantry, got drunk 3 times and cried 17. Ate black-eyed peas and gruel and bratwurst with honey mustard. I thought 72 immoral and lewd unlawful acts, committing several without even trying. I masturbated using only my left hand. I bathed in mayonnaise. I found your diary and your dildo. I couldn't help myself. I read your dildo, but I did not insert your diary. Some things cannot be. Funny, with you gone, I feel I know you better than when you were here. Hurry back, I know too much about you already. This is called chickens. There are roughly as many chickens as humans. People consume 1 million chickens a minute. Every minute worldwide there are 245 human births versus 102 deaths. I try and do the math but cannot. Will we have 7 billion chickens in another few years? Will we have 10 to 15 billion chickens by mid-century? Will there be any room for anything other than chickens and people? And what about cows? There are not enough tree-climbing primates as of this writing to fill a small sports stadium. 1,000 of this, a few hundred of that, down to a dozen, poof, gone like an unpaid magician's assistant. Things go extinct all the time, says Rush Limbaugh. It's a natural progression. Just us and the chickens, cockroaches, flies, maggots, blackberries, Rush Limbaugh, and death. Doo-dah, doo-dah. This is called on-base drinking percentage. I'm very excited. Baseball season's about to start, so this is a little baseball talk. On-base drinking percentage. I'm uncertain as to whether baseball got me drinking or drinking drew me closer to baseball. I went from not drinking and playing to playing and drinking to drinking and watching to not playing at all. I played in several beer leagues. We played a lot and drank a lot. Sometimes after, sometimes during. With beer ball, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you drink that matters. My father introduced me to the game, drinking in his chair with me on the floor. He explained everything involved except for the crucial enhancement of drinking while watching, which I discovered by watching him watch it. He'd lob a white plastic baseball and I'd swing at it with a red plastic bat with a neighbor kid or two fielding. The frantic race between plum and apple tree and back, with my dog chasing behind, beamed by the ball as good as an out. I admire the game's symmetry, try and recall whatever became of that glove I used to massage with oil, or that bottleneck bat I never quite grew into. Dream of that which I can never return to, and all that I have left behind, remembering Dad, where the beer cans flew and the hits kept coming. Here's another dad poem. This is called No Santa. My father never told me there was no Santa. He told me of Satan, though, of hell and Dante's visit there. He told me about the atom bomb and how we had dropped 2 on Japan, how people were vaporized, leaving behind only a shadow, and that these were the lucky ones. He never took me to see Mary Poppins. Instead, we went to grainy black and white films with subtitles and no cartoons, where women's breasts generated little excitement. He read me Animal Farm, explaining it wasn't really about animals. He told me about Vietnam, how we were losing this war. We were losing this war the same way the Brits first lost to us. The present history makers, he'd say, don't know their history. He'd take me out at night, and we'd look up at the sky together, and he'd say what we were seeing had already long since passed, and maybe somewhere at that very moment there was a father and son pointing our direction a million years this way or that. He never told me there was no Santa, but given the aforementioned, I put it together. And come Christmas, good or bad, I knew there'd be something under the tree, whether Santa brought it or Dad had left it behind. I have a short series of kind of famous people poems, and some of these are author poems, and this is one called A Movable Snack. Oh, Ernie, we all long to be you, to write the clean sentence cleanly, to have eaten what you have tasted, to have been in no less than 5 wars and never lacked material, yet still bore us with tales of fishing and bullfighting and big game hunting, to have lived in the time of big game to game against, Kilimanjaro with its still pristine snow, the tramp to tramp Cuba and single-handedly invent mojitos, arm wrestle Castro with green stuff in your teeth, when men were men and women sometimes your own invention, with but one theme you beat like a threadbare tambourine, with Europe and America still reading the little story in big magazines, hanging with F. Scott and Joyce and Gertrude and Gary Cooper, manly guys and others. You were all mostly manly guys, thriving in a manly world with cast iron balls that clanked as you swaggered. And whether it was Key West or Paris or Ketchum, Idaho, you always knew who you were. And when you couldn't be that anymore, you knew what to do. We all want to be you, Ernie, or maybe we just want to know what to do. Maybe you would not have been you had you not occurred when you did. Things being a tad more convoluted these days, and people, believe it or not, are even more crazy and weak and effed up than Scott or Zelda. A mandatory trigger lock could have denied you your date. Man, you would have been really screwed then. You could have lived, Pappy, long enough for our love to turn on you, like love so often does after it's been around for a while. This is called Tolstoy. Tolstoy was big, too big for mere poetry, too big for little magazines in whatever form they existed. His short stories were never short. He wrote big, heavy, weighty books with big, heavy, weighty characters. His own time and era could not contain him. Whatever Rasputin, the Tsar, or Kaiser, Victoria, or Edward were up to were not important enough for Tolstoy's quill. This modest-sized author with the ZZ top-sized beard did not write literature, he was literature. Dostoevsky might equal him in theme, Balzac maybe in volume, pedestrian meringue in comparison. The only work, and work it is to rival War and Peace, is Les Miserables. The Hunchback, however, is no match for Anna Karenina. Perhaps if Dostoevsky, Balzac, and Hugo ambushed Tolstoy in an alley. Otherwise, Leo kicks everybody's ass. Or to paraphrase a different source, Leo Tolstoy is still big. It's the books that got small. And last time I read this, a 10-year-old son of my best friend came up to me and told me how much he loved this poem. So that was high praise coming from a 10-year-old. This is called Pop Dreams. In my dreams, I'm kicking Justin Bieber's ass. I'd sooner dream I was fucking Angelina Jolie, but kicking Justin Bieber's ass is not without its joy. I smack him in his pretty upturned nose, send a left into those perfect pearly choppers. Of course, he's not grinning in my dream. He's in tears and flails his thin, girly arms protectively over his flouncy hair. Fans of his stand on the sideline of my dream, expressing their horror at what a prick I am. Yeah, I'd much rather be having that other dream. Angelina or that girl who tends bar at the Elysian. Why can't we pick our dreams? The unfairness of it irks me, and I pass this on into the teen throb solar plexus. I have nothing against young Bieber, aside from his overexposed face and his senseless saccharine pop rock sound. He's merely the it boy. Last year, this could have been Zac Efron, or generational pop eons ago, Bobby Sherman, who begat David Cassidy, who begat, well, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares, Justin? I holler. His fans and posse murmur, we do, we love Justin. I silence them with another kick, a low one, as he's on the ground, and I'm not getting any younger, even in my dreams. God, what an asshole I am. I pause to watch as he spits out a couple of teeth. I quickly recover from this bout of self-reflection and kick him again, feeling his ribs give way against my foot. He'll have other problems later, but I'm his problem now. Yeah, I'd much rather be fucking Angelina Jolie, but this is what I get instead. Is it any reason why I'm bitter, Justin? I give him another. Take that, I scream in my dream. Both of us hoping one of us wakes up soon. Okay, I have a tiny little trio of Chicago poems. This is called, I hear that, ooh. Okay, this is called, At Byron Barew's off Clark Street, a bar I used to love. On a street I used to hang out. They asked us to leave after we'd been drinking there for some time, and we did for a little while, until Martin said we should go back in and moon the bartender, which he did. Too low and half-assed, I said. Like this, you moron. I climbed up on a stool, got my pants down, my underwear down, bent over with my ass level to the bar, right where the bastard had to see it, then lost my balance. Fell over, stool and all, with my bare ass onto that ancient peanut shell, dust bunny, tumbleweedium, splinter-riddled, nail-exposed, tar and gum-filled cracked bare-board floor, with its 100-year-old filth trod upon by rebels and convicts and sailors with stiff soldiers on AWOL, slumming frat boys, drunken Irish like Martin, and the poets who don't write and the writers who never say what they mean. From across the bar I could hear Martin laughing, braying like an asshole, and the bartender who had missed it all telling us to leave all over again as I struggled to join my belt and the buttons clutching dignity from the jaws of a bad moon rising. All right, I'll skip to the end here. This is called Boots. I lace them up for the umpteenth thousandth time. My mother brought me these when I was 16 and had just been sentenced to a work farm, which she was none too pleased with me for having been sent there. That was 30 years ago. I was marching off to hell, but I would go in sound footwear. They are covered in scars. The once black toes are just raw leather, evidence of a chainsaw that almost made it through. I revere these boots. I wonder what the boot odometer might say. 5, maybe 6 digits by now. I would polish them out of respect were there anything left to polish. It's been 3 decades since I last did so when they passed inspection on to the day's work, breaking them in, creating blisters, calluses, wearing down the tread, the heels, the toes, the laces, traveling towards something routine and labor-intensive, something I did not want to do. They know my feet better than I do, supporting my arches as I fall in step, ready for another mile around the globe if I could go that far. I would be buried in these boots if I were to be buried. I would like to see them in a museum as sound example for classic footwear from our era. Upon reaching my last mile, I would love to give them to some snot-nosed punk with 10.5-sized feet on his way to jail and tell him, hell, I wouldn't tell him anything. I'd just give him these boots.
Yeah! Thanks.